Non-consensual.
Non-consensual.
Thanks,
I
Mom
haven't
and
seen a
Dad.
single residual from that film.
Team can be the heroes on the Wheaties box. We are the Thunderbolts.
Can't call ourselves that.
God, thank you.
I'll start with the tone of the movie because I think fans are really going to understand it's a different type of story this time around. At what point did you realize?
I don't know if I ever knew. I trusted Jake. I had an inherent trust of Jake. We'd worked together a lot before this, so I had an inherent trust of Jake, and so I could do a huge, broad version of it and a much more grounded version of it, and I did just be like, I know you're not gonna. I know you're gonna pick the right one.
You guys shot a lot of stuff before I entered into the shooting. I was shooting something else, and I came in a little bit later. One of the first scenes I think we had was me and her in that bathrobe sequence in the beginning. And I remember, like, yeah, there's a nervousness about, like, what are we trying to do? We'd rehearsed a lot, though. Jake kept grounding us in, we're just trying to make a real movie here. We're not trying to hit jokes. We're not trying to hit moments. If it felt true, and if it felt honest, and it felt the sort of electricity was already there in the room. So I didn't, it was sort of intuitive.
Who is this old Santa?
I'm Alexei Shostakov, the Red Guardian.
What?
I think we really had to rely on Jake for that.
Jake Schreier, the
Jake
director.
Schreier, our director. Because I think we both, are more comedically inclined and kind of wanted to find jokes wherever we could. And Jake sort of was, captain of the ship, had such a grip on what the tone is, because it's funny, but it's also dark and very, emotionally precise. So we turned to him a lot.
Well, it was there on the page. What was fun about this tonally was that throughout the film, Valentina is a few steps ahead of everyone else, but there are moments in which she's completely caught off guard. And to play those moments with restraint, I think really was the tone of the movie. I really think of her as, how our heroes are not really heroes, they're anti-heroes. And I think of her as being sort of an anti-villain too. She's not clear-cut villain at all in this movie. Both. Both. Because sometimes you have to, really play around with material to find just, and then he was like, oh, I don't think, or, oh yeah, that works. It was that simple.
I mean, the transition from my previous Marvel movie, which was Ant-Man and the Wasp, the tone is completely different. And that's the different directors. You've got, Peyton Reed for the Ant-Man and the Wasp, and then, Jake for ours. It was his lens and his optics of this film, and the detail and the sensitivity as well, and the themes of this movie. I think Marvel hasn't really gone there, like with our themes of our movie before. It's not like, right, here's your first day, here's your suit, and go. And, it's not that, machine.
I still am wondering, I don't know if you ever know. It is a real, specific tone, and I think in some ways, it's maybe harder for you to kind of readjust and unlearn some of that kind of those tonal instincts, things that I thought was the tone that quickly were kind of dismissed. Jake's like, we're not doing that, But,
I think we all maybe did that at some point.
Yeah.
I think we all came in like, we're gonna do that. I think it was like, no, guys, this is not what we're.
Yeah.
I think we all probably were guilty of that at some point at the early days.
Yeah, it's like you're in a room in the dark and you kind of have to feel out the walls to understand the space of your limitations, and then kind of like, okay, this is the space that we're operating in. And obviously Jake was, the spearheader of that.
You thought you were gonna be some great saviors? You can't even save yourself.
It felt like, I got the job, or I found out I got the job, like, during the last week of shooting Beef Season 1. And it felt like there was so much about that show and what Lee Sung-jin brought to it, this blend of tones and how deep it wanted to go, but also how funny it could be and have action, that it felt like there was a sort of recipe in that we felt like we could bring over to something like Thunderbolts and know that all of those things could coexist within a story. And then it was just also coming from the characters having the Sentry and the Void in this movie, that in order to confront an antagonist like that, you were going to have to build a story with characters that could emotionally resonate with what that antagonist is going through in order to find an ending that would feel earned.
I can't think of a worse group of people trying to work.
Who plays Shane?
Wow, that's amazing.
Who plays Shane?
This is why my favorite thing about the movie. This is spoiler free, I guess.
Yeah.
But like theoretically, There's a character in the movie that does not appear in the movie, but in our minds had a pivotal role. He owns a tire shop. He was not involved, in my memory, with supporting a local soccer team. Other people say he was.
And his name of this actor, who we're still working on looking up his avail.
We gotta pitch him.
Is Mark Rylance plays that character.
Shane of Shane's Tire Shop.
Yes.
It was hot in the desert in that limo scene, arguing about the moniker of the team and the whole thing.
And then
there's a character, this guy comes up, and then we would just laugh and laugh.
Well,
and then
we
it
would
became
drive
about
back.
the movie that we're gonna make about that guy.
We would drive back, like we'd finish the end of the road, and then we would drive back in this big white van, and then I was dying laughing because the way that David was saying Shane, like he like created this whole world for somebody that was named Shane.
I get so mad that people think he has money.
Name.
I get so mad.
Yeah, all of that, like that wasn't scripted.
Yes.
And David was just making it up, so I was like, this is like, and I was like, Mark Rylance must play Shane.
Tell him when he's available to do press. It's real.
Did you know that Wyatt Russell actually busted his head open for real and has a Thunderbolt-shaped scar on his scalp? Did you know that? That's real. Do you like that one?
You don't seem satisfied.
I like it.
Valentina wears a belt with a V. Period. Put that on your IMDb. Put that up. And you may think it's for Valentino, but it might be for Valentina.
Valentina.
You can just call me Val, but don't call me Val. Just keep it in your head.
Me and Florence, many times, we're doing this little baby rock and roll sign for like if we felt like something went well, we'd do a little baby rock. And we both challenged each other to fit a baby rock into the film at some point. And I think mine got cut and hers is in there somewhere.
Oh, great.
What do you like about
There
it?
you go. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Maybe that the casting for the guinea pig was extensive. They went
And
through
let's
a lot
just
of
say
guinea pigs.
the right guinea pig won.
Got the part.
Yes. We all
got to sign off on that.
Had to sign off on it. That was a contractual thing, and we can't get into the details on it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Florence stepping off of the top of the second tallest tower in the world. There's a moment earlier in the movie, it's later in the movie, but earlier in the shoot, where she takes a step into a place that I don't want to entirely name yet, that is meant to feel like a sort of mirror to that moment. And so because of where we were and how we had filmed that and what the profile was, we actually had to go and shoot early in the morning in Malaysia in order to match that profile given where the sun was rising versus where it was setting. That radically changed. We had to get up there in the dark at 4 a.m. and rehearse in the dark so that we could get it at the same time so that the positions would match between those two shots.
Now it feels like just a void.
Wow.
I got cast to do Saturday Night Live. I was in college in Chicago, and I dropped out of college, and I went to New York, and I worked on the show for 3 years. Wow. And I learned an enormous amount in that period of time. It was like grad school. I went in super green, and I came out very experienced. Never take another job unless you know it's going to be fun. Fun is the operative word.
We've had so many traumatic experiences, and together we perform them on stage.
Yeah. Moose was a short film that I made with my friend, Arkadas, and it's about a dead dog, I think? Yeah, that's all I can.
Sorry, I've just had the craziest night.
Well, it should be As the World Turns, but I think it's Law & Order. I love that show. I love doing that. That show, when I was 26 years old, was when my first gig on camera. I couldn't believe how excited I was. It was the best training in the world doing soap operas.
You sure you want to quit, man? You're giving up your seat to the best sideshow in town.
Yeah, there was
I don't
a
want to be on
lot.
credits. The Baby.
The Baby and Overboard was my first actual time being.
And you were what? How old were you?
I was like 9 months old. That would have technically been my first on-screen debut.
Non-consensual.
Non-consensual.
Thanks,
I
Mom
haven't seen
and
a
Dad.
single residual from that film. And then my first credited one would have been high school was one I lied to my hockey team. My friend was directing the film. He needed somebody for a PSA video. That was technically my first actual I'm gonna do this, and it was just a favor.
This seemingly harmless act will bring the walls of his reality crashing down.
My first voice credit is that Dark Souls?
Yes, of course.
Then my first acting credit is Whitechapel, I believe. Carly and Misfits. My brain's gone blank on which one was which one was first. But yes, I played I sold ice cream in Misfits. I had an ice cream van. I played a character called Carly. I love Misfits.
It all started with Carly.
Yeah, it all started with Carly. I sold ice cream.
I like some ice cream.
Good, because I sell those.
That is with my best friend, Graham Parks, who I've done many a shorts with. I grew up with him, and we actually are making our first feature that he's directing in a couple months. So it's come full circle. We hoped and we dreamed, but obviously we're skeptics about it. So we're both kind of like consistently texting each other, being like, can you still believe this is actually happening? And I'm like, well, it's not happening until it's happening, so let's just not get too excited.
You're real. I've been wondering if you made that mistake.
Actually was Christopher Ford. So I went to film school with a group of friends, John Watts, who directed the Spider-Man movies, and Chris Ford, who wrote Spider-Man with John and created Skeleton Crew. And Ford wrote Robot and Frank, my first film. So we would make these kind of shorts starring each other that we would put on YouTube. So there's a bunch more. I think that one, I was directing a commercial, and we had like a 35 camera and anamorphic lenses and some films. So we did it on the weekend. So that one looks a little fancier, so it got on IMDb. But we would just make movies with each other every weekend. And then I think the lesson of the movie, the lesson of that time is just if you have good friends and you stick together and you make things together, good things will happen. So
show me what to do.